All right, guys, welcome to another episode. I'm Orlando,
And I'm Omar.
Smart Bros.
And this is the Smart Take.
All right, guys, we're back with another episode. This will be season two, episode 11. We just finished our week 10 game against the New York Giants, and now we have the Carolina Panthers coming up. But before we preview that game, go back, recap over our predictions, see what we got wrong, see what we got right, just see how we're feeling about that game in general. So, start us off. How are you feeling about the game?
Well, let me just start off. I'm wearing 88. My boy Ceedee, he broke the record most he has 3 games with 10 plus catches with 150 plus yards. That's the most in NFL history. Did you see his gloves are in Canton now because and
Yeah.
his towel because that's never been done before. So and I'm glad that the Cowboys let him go back in because he was like he had the catches or he had 9 catches and he was like 8 yards or 9 yards short or something. They let him go back in and get last 2 catches. Like stuff like that matters. Like, and especially when you
Right.
think about negotiations because he has to get paid soon. I like that. The small things like that matter. He's gonna always remember that. Like I was about to break the record and they let me go back in. So and then that also moved him into those Jamar Chase discussions, which I mean I've been having those kind of discussions, but now the world it seems to be catching on. So like, and he's up there in receiving yards as well. And he's gonna get there and he's gonna continue to grow. He's gonna continue to get there in touchdowns as well. He had 2 overall, one receiving, and I mean, granted, I'm not big on that. It was just the Giants, just because or it was just the Jets, or it was just this team because these same teams have given other teams, other quote unquote good teams, very big problems, and they just haven't given us those issues. So I'm not. And on top of that, it's an any weekend, any Sunday kind of league. So you got to still go out there and perform, and we've been doing that regardless of who's we can. You can only play who's your play. Your schedule is your schedule. So, but I'm big on the underselling right now. I had D Dak for 280 and 3 touchdowns. He blew that out of the water. He had 26 to 35, or he went 26 to 35, had 404 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. He did have a pick, and I was very confused on his passing. I don't
Terrible
know
throw.
really. Hey, if it's his fault, it's his fault. Don't know what he was doing. Terrible pass, but after that, he got right back locked in. He got that blemish out the way, and then he also had 17 rushing yards and another touchdown. So, like I said, he's been using his legs more, and that's opened up the passing game for Ceedee, Brandon Cooks, even Michael Gallup this game, and clearly Ferg. So I hope we continue to do that. Had Ceedee for 80 yards and a touchdown. Clearly, he had more than that. He had 11 catches for 151 yards, which, like I said, broke the record. Had a receiving touchdown, and then he also had 14 yards rushing and a touchdown. So offense was being a little bit creative, getting our best players the ball. So I'm a big fan of that. I had Gallup for 35 yards. He had a big catch. Down the field. We finally used him to his strength. He's a deep ball threat, so we got to send him deep. Dak put it right on the money. So Gallup had 70 yards and a touchdown. We implemented Cooks heavily into the offense this week, and it's just like it's about time. We hit him on a deep ball. We hit him crosser routes. We gave him routes and concepts that speedy guys such as himself need. Like you got him in space,
Right.
let him outrun the defender off the line, and I'm glad we finally started to do that. Hopefully, we continue that. So I had him for 60 and a touchdown. He had 9 catches, 173 yards and a touchdown, which I don't see why him and Ceedee being the 1 and 2 things like this can't happen all the time. I mean, you can't. You
Right.
got if you double one, the other one's open. Because I remember one time Ceedee literally had the linebacker or the safety literally stacked against him. Like,
Right.
but I mean, and clearly that's what you got to do when you're on a tear like this. That's
Exactly.
what happens. So I'm not mad at the Giants. I get it. I'd be doing the same thing. Somebody else has got to beat me, but we had somebody else. Um, Clearly a tight end touchdown. Ferg, he's having a good season. He's
Right.
had a couple drops here and there, but for the most part, I've been pretty happy with Ferg, which I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't really like to bash Shoemaker, but it just doesn't really make sense. I'm gonna continue to say that I really wasn't understanding that pick. It's like we didn't trust Ferg or something, but he's shown that he can be a good tight end and a good receiving tight end. So big kudos to him. I thought maybe TP would have a breakout game. He's still not really getting there. I said he had 75 and a touchdown. He only had 55 yards. Maybe this week get the Panthers is his, especially because they've been giving up a lot of touchdowns. We've averaged 5 the last couple weeks, so we'll see what happens. And I had him for 75 and a touchdown with Rico Dowdle and our backup running back. He ended up having 79 yards and a touchdown. So if you just flip them, there it is. I thought Mike would have 2.5 sacks. He didn't really look engaged, to be honest. I really didn't. Yeah,
Honestly,
he
yeah.
didn't. He really wasn't rushing that hard. I feel like. I mean, it is what it is. It's not like we just like needed him to, but maybe he was conserving his energy. I'm not really trying to give him a pass or anything, but he ended up with 0 sacks. I thought we'd have 2 picks. Bland had 1. Ball Hawk been playing exceptional, stepping up for the Diggs role. I thought we'd have a defensive touchdown. Didn't have a defensive touchdown, and I thought we'd have 5 sacks. We did have 5 sacks. And then I thought we would win 42-13. We ended up winning 49-17, which was really like they didn't like. It's not that they really scored 17, but I mean that they ended up like at the very end,
Even
like
even as
go
big
ahead,
as the blowout was, it just seemed like the score wasn't a testament
what
of
it
how
could
the
have
game
been.
actually went. Yeah,
Yeah,
even as big as it was.
because like Dak he's got to have sat the most fourth quarters in the league, and he's still top 10 in passing yards. He still top 10 in touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just
Oh,
like
he's top 5 in touchdowns.
top 5, okay? Because I know he's thrown 17, correct? Yeah, he's thrown 17.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure, and only 6 picks, which is, that's I know haters are not happy with that because their favorite quarterback has probably either thrown if they've thrown more touchdowns, they've definitely thrown more picks, or even some of them have thrown the same amount of touchdowns, or more picks, and then some have even thrown less touchdown, more picks, and that's with Dak having his bye and not other quarterbacks having their bye yet. So he's playing a great season. If he continues on that, like I said, I'm gonna start having some real conversation. I'm trying to hold off as long as I can, even though they should be being had right now. But that just I don't. People are gonna call me biased, this and that, but he's playing at an exceptional level right now. I'm just gonna let him keep playing like that. But those are my predictions. I was happy with the game. We played Brandon Aubrey. Shout out to him. He still hasn't missed, so I like that he's continued that. I mean, he didn't kick many field goals because we were scoring touchdowns, but extra points. So shout out to him. But go ahead. What were your predictions? What'd you get right?
So basically, like my give you my overall feel of the game. I definitely was happy with pretty much everything across the board. Like even and see, there's been a difference. There's been a very visible shift in our offense. Like even if you look at both of the games we played against the Giants, first game we won 40-0. This game we won. Hold on. Yeah, if you look at the both games we played the Giants, first game we won 40-0. This game we win 49-17. But just the difference in the way the game was played. In the first game, our defense completely dominated the Giants, didn't give them any room for any room to breathe. And our offense, while they had no problem really getting the ball down the field, they were struggling in the red zone. We were struggling to put points on the board, and that was a red flag for me early on in the season. But now in this season, we still blow the team out, but it was completely led by our offense, and I think that's a good thing. I feel like going into the future, that shows that our defense can be completely dominant, can completely shut a team out, and now that our offense, they can also follow suit. They can run it up on teams. They can put points on the board. So now if we can get both of those things working in the same game, I mean, I don't see a team that could beat us if both of those, the best of our offense and the best of our defense, are working at the same time. And the steady improvement in our offense over the last 4 weeks has definitely been impressive to me. I'm I was very critical of Mike McCarthy early on in the season, and he's made me completely eat my words from and like. And so one thing with criticism, I feel like a lot of people are saying like, "Oh, y'all need to apologize to Mike McCarthy," and it's like, well, no, because at the time when the criticism was there, it was valid. Our offense was stagnant. We couldn't score in the red zone, and it was just an archaic old offense, and it wasn't working. There's been a
I agree.
clear change in offense, and so now he deserves credit for that. And I feel like I don't think there should be anything wrong with that. I feel like if the offense isn't working well, we can criticize him. And if he changes it, and I definitely want to give him credit for changing it because I feel like that's definitely been something that there was a Jason Garrett problem for sure. It seemed like even if things weren't working, he just didn't care. He was going to keep trying it, just going to keep lining up, not make any adjustments. I've seen this team make halftime adjustments when in the past, if there was a change at halftime, we were completely shocked and surprised. We're like, oh wow, there were halftime adjustments. And I feel like that's not something that should be happening, and it should. And now that we are getting those things, I'm very excited to see where this offense can take this team. But getting into my predictions, I predicted that Dak would throw for 335 yards and 3 touchdowns. That at 404, 5 total touchdowns. And like I said, my for Dak to because you said you don't want to kind of the conversation now. Well, I'm already having them. I'm already like pushing this narrative because I mean at this point winning the MVP, in my opinion, is honestly like winning the first seed for us, and like in different years in terms of like where you control your own destiny. At this point, all that has to like I said, all he has to do is continue to play well, like I said, against these lower level teams, put up the numbers and do whatever he can in those games. And then when that tough part of the season comes, if he can win those games, regardless of the stats he puts up, I think that'll clearly move him into this MVP conversation. If he can put up the stats against the Giants like he just did, the Panthers, the Commanders, and then go out there and win against the Seahawks, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Eagles at home, the Lions, then I feel like winning the MVP is in his own. He's in control of his own destiny in that sense. I know he's capable of doing it. He just has to actually go out there and do it. So at this point, I feel like he's definitely. That's how he would become the MVP favorite and how he could actually win. But even now, I think he's definitely in the conversation. Like you said earlier,
Okay.
he's top 5 in touchdowns right now. He's well, he was before the Thursday night football game. He was 7th in yards, so and that's with Kirk Cousins being ahead of him, who's done for the season. Sam Howell and Josh Allen having bye week, so honestly, you do by average. He's top 5 in passing yards a game, top 5 in passing touchdowns, number 1 overall in completion percentage. I mean, if you look at all the quarterback stats, he's up in the ranks. So to say he's in the MVP conversation, I don't think it's crazy or delusional like people say. I'm not saying he's the favorite right now. I honestly don't really think there is a favorite. I like maybe Jalen Hurts because his team does have the best record in the NFL, or Jackson just because the way he's playing right now in Baltimore. But I honestly think I don't think it's too crazy to have that in that conversation with them for MVP. But moving on, I predicted that Ceedee would have 150 and a touchdown. Like we said, he pretty much almost had that right on the dot. That was his record he broke. He had 151, but he ended up having 2 touchdowns, one on the ground, which is another conversation I definitely want to start having because well, yes, he's firmly put himself into the top 5 wide receiver conversation, in my opinion. I feel like he's right now fighting for that number 2 spot. I mean, AJ Brown has 30 more passing yards. 30 more receiving yards and 2 more receiving touchdowns. But Ceedee has more overall yards than him because we use him out of the backfield. He only has 1 less touchdown because he has a rushing touchdown now.
Mm.
And I feel like there's a Cowboys content creator on Twitter, Bernie, who kind of puts out a lot of what people would consider hot takes, and he gets a lot of flack for it. And one of his biggest takes is that CeeDee Lamb is better than AJ Brown. And the more we see them two play, I don't think it's that crazy of a statement because good as AJ Brown is at what he does, the versatility that CeeDee brings to our offense is
I agree.
second to none almost. He can line up at every single position in the wide receiver room, outside, inside, slot, it doesn't matter, left, right, and then he's also even runs out of the backfield and scoring touchdowns and gaining yards. So I feel like you definitely have to look at that when you're comparing the two, and that's why I personally would take Ceedee over AJ Brown. And if that's the case, that would put him as the second best wide receiver in the NFL right now because I think it's as according to this year, it would be Tyreek Hill one, or how most people would view this year, it'd be Tyreek Hill one, AJ Brown second, and then guys like Ceedee, Jamar, and everybody else is kind of fighting the third. But I feel like Ceedee is kind of distancing himself from them, from the guys under, and I don't want to call them lower level. Obviously, the third, fourth, fifth best receivers aren't lower level,
And
and
Justin
he's
Jefferson
kind
has
of
been hurt,
catapulted
so
himself to that 1 and 2 upper echelon category. Definitely, because I mean, I feel like he's definitely up in that upper echelon category. But I definitely want to give CD his props and want to hopefully he can continue this run. Hopefully he can stretch this record to 4 games and kind of distance himself in that. And I predicted that I predicted that Brandon Cooks would have over 100 yards in the touchdown, and we finally did that. This was his first game over 100 yards this season. He had more yards in this game than he had all season put together, and I just feel like even in these last 4 games that Dak has been playing, he's definitely found a way to give Brandon Cooks the ball. Definitely found a way to make them to the connection them two have this kind of building. So hopefully that can continue on. I predicted that we'd have a tight end touchdown, of course. You touched on it. Jake Ferguson is having a great season. Well, if you want to just compare it to what Dalton Schultz did or is doing right now, their stats are almost identical, but we're paying Jake Ferguson like almost, I think, $11 million less than the Jets are paying Dalton Schultz. So, I mean, if we can get the same production for less money, that's always going to be a plus. We can use that we got a lot of contracts coming up. I predicted that we would have a Deron Bland pick. We got a Deron Bland pick. I predicted that we'd have a safety pick. Didn't get that, but I call him Danny DeVito, but his name is Tommy DeVito. He honestly didn't have too many opportunities to put the ball up in the air and kind of give it away, but that's just what the game plan is going to be for a rookie quarterback in his first ever start. So I predicted that we'd have 5 sacks total. We have 5 sacks total, and then I predicted that Michael would have 2 sacks. And you said he definitely just didn't seem engaged. I feel like this might be the first game in his career where he didn't produce a single stat. Obviously, he's getting his pressures and stuff, but that doesn't show up on the regular stat sheet. He didn't have any sacks. He didn't have any tackles. And even sideline, I honestly didn't see it. I don't know if he just wasn't there. He just wasn't really in it that day.
but I'm not, like I said, I don't want to give him a pass because I mean, obviously we're gonna need him everything, but at the same time, I I know he can bounce back. I'm not gonna say like this is what we're gonna expect from him. In my predictions coming up, I'm still gonna have the same energy I usually have from Micah,
Sure.
but he definitely wasn't there like he normally is. So,
All right, and then I predicted that we would win the game 42-7, and we ended up winning 49-17. But I'm pretty sure the score when Dak and all the starters came out was 42-7. So there were some garbage time touchdowns in there by both teams, but for the most part, I mean my predictions were pretty accurate. But that was the Giants game. Now we're gonna move on to because we got Carolina coming up. I mean, I think, in my opinion, it should be somewhat similar type of game. But what are your initial thoughts?
no, yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I'm not seeing much from them to where I'm thinking we shouldn't be able to win pretty fairly easily. I just hope we stick with the same game plan, throw early and often, let Dak run the offense, let TP get it in when he fits in at this point. And I think that's our recipe for success. I have our defense. Hopefully we can get in third and long situations where we can get our pass rush going. So hey, I'm undersold. Think 3-4 weeks in a row. They've exceeded 3-4 weeks in a row. So if it's not broken, don't fix it. I'm going Dak 290, 3 touchdowns, which like I said last week, that's underselling based on what he can do, what this offense can do. So I think Ceedee will go for 85 and a touchdown. I got Cooks for 55 and a touchdown just because he's really emerging to our number two. So, I think Gallup will have 50. He'll probably, hopefully, we throw him at least one deep ball. If he catches it, great. If he doesn't, I'm not just saying I don't want him to be in the offense at all, but I like three options before him. I like CD, Cooks, and then Ferg. Because Ferg has been he's a great safety valve, and then he's shown that he can get vertical as well. Tight end touchdown, of course. And then I think that I have to have hope that the pass game opens up TP at least a little bit, or at least we'll get to the red zone, and then hopefully maybe he can run one in. So I'll go for TP for 65 and a touchdown. I have Mike at a sack and a half. I think he'll combine. I would say two, but I think he'll just combine with somebody for a sack. I think we'll have 4 sacks overall. I think we'll have 1 pick. If I had to put a name on it, I'll go Gilly. And then I think we'll get a forced fumble as well. And then I think we'll win 40-16. How about you? How do you feel?
I mean, I think your game plan has worked. You've been underselling, and they've been exceeding your expectations. And the crazy thing is, I've been quote unquote overselling if I'm doing the opposite of you, and they've been exceeding my expectations. So I'm gonna try to keep the same energy. I'm in this game. I got Dak throwing for 370 and 4 touchdowns. I think if he can throw for 370 plus, that'll at least put him in. He'll be top for sure, top 3 in yards for the season. So, and then I think little things like that are just kind of boosting that narrative. And then the 4 touchdowns, I'm pretty sure, just depending on how other people play, that might put him at either first or second in touchdowns thrown this season. So definitely hoping he can get 370 and 4 touchdowns. But in the same sense, I think this is going to be a game that we figure out what's going on with Tony Pollard and our run game. I don't think that is just going to completely take away from what Dak and the receivers are going to be able to do, but I do think that this will be a good game for Tony Pollard. I think this will be the first game all season that he goes over 100 and scores a touchdown in the same game. He's only done each of those things separately once. He scored 2 touchdowns in the very first game, and then I think he had 122 yards in a game or two, a couple games later. And then other than that, he's been consistently held under 100 and consistently,
I'll say he's been very quiet since those however many
yeah,
weeks.
he's been consistently held under 100 yards and consistently held out of the end zone. So I think with a team like the Panthers, a team that hasn't won many games, and us being who we are, I think this is a game that we try to figure out how to get him in more, because it's not from lack of production. I mean, it isn't for lack of effort of getting him the ball, but I just think we'll be finding ways to make him more successful in the touches he's getting.
And before you continue, I saw a quote that Ceedee, because they had asked Ceedee about it. They were like, how do y'all plan to implement Tony? And he was just like, hey man, with the explosion of me and the emergence of Brandon Cook's speed, that'll just open stuff up for TP to get going. So maybe hopefully that's not their game plan to run. Hopefully that, unless it's just they can't stop it, that's one thing. But I'm still big on the pass early and off. My bad. Go keep going. I just wanted to put that out there. They want it, they want to do good, but we want to do good too. It's just if it's not there, it's not there. You can't force it.
I agree 100%. If our run game gets itself going naturally, that's beautiful to me. I'm perfectly fine with that. But don't force anything and straight up take away from things that are working. Don't rob Peter to pay Paul. If don't give Ceedee or Tony Pollard touches if that's going to take away from what Ceedee and the offense is doing when that's working and Tony Pollard is not. But I think that, like I said, I think this will be a game that we can kind of figure that out and get him going. I think that Brandon Cooks will have over 100 yards and a touchdown. I think just the way that we've used him in the last 4 weeks since the bye, since the game in San Francisco, I think we're figuring out a way to get him open and get him the ball. I think Dak is looking to get him the ball, which is very good because, I mean, he's open. You got to get it. You got to get the open receivers the ball. I think that obviously tight end touchdown always gonna. If I was a betting man, that's one thing I would absolutely put money on every
Betting the
week, and
over
would
that
be
0.5 over.
straight up surprised if we did if that bet fell through. But I think that Micah, like we said earlier, we touched on it. I don't think he was very engaged in that last game. People are definitely talking about it. People are definitely his lack, because as much as we can say week in week out that pressures are important, which they are, QB hurries are important, which they are. At the end of the day, things that win you awards, things that absolutely win you games are sacks, and that's just been something that, although he is facing double teams, he is facing triple teams, he is being held. I mean, but that just comes with the territory of being one of the arguably the best pass rusher, the best defensive end in the entire NFL. So I think that if Michael wants to continue to hold that title, if he wants to win awards, he's gonna have to play through that. He's gonna have to show up on the stat sheet in the sack column. And starting with this game, I think he'll have 2.5 sacks coming out, because I think these are all things that Micah knows. I think that he's very aware of the situation. I think he's very aware of what's the rumblings that are going on online. He's very tapped into social media and what's going on. So I think he knows that, and he's going to be looking to kind of shut some of that stuff up, because there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of rumblings going on around right now. But I think that we'll have 6 total sacks. I agree with you. I think one pick will come from Stephon Gilmore. And I also think we'll have a forced fumble. So we're both spot on with that one. And I think we'll win the game 42-14. So and then our score predictions were like 2 off. You said 40-16. I said 42-14. So
Hmm.
I think we're kind of right here with the predictions. But I mean, yeah,
We
you
will.
guys anything?
I was just gonna say we'll be back pretty soon because we're on a short week. Clearly we play Sunday at 12, but then we play right back on Thursday for the Thanksgiving game against the Commanders. So, we'll try to get the video out by either Tuesday or Wednesday because we play the Thanksgiving game.
We actually,
But go ahead.
after this Sunday, we actually have 2 Thursday games in a row. We play the Commanders and the Seahawks on Thursday.
Okay. Which I mean, this is an important little 4-game stretch for us because we have a tough 4-game stretch after it. So we need to be rolling at the right time before we play the Eagles again in Jerry World. So, but I have 100% faith that we can do that because if the offense, I'm not seeing much to where if the offense is playing like this, I feel like we're back to what we were. We're scoring 30 plus a game because and we're putting the defense together now. Granted, okay, it was the Giants. It was the who do we play for the Giants?
That was the Eagles game.
Oh, okay.
And then but it was the Chargers and the Rams game as well.
I get okay. Yeah, I get it. It was the Giants this week. It is the oh my god, who do we play this week? I'm drawing blanks. Yeah, I get it. It was the Giants. It is the Panthers this week. It is the Commanders next week. But hey, like I said, it's any given week. These same teams that we're playing have given some of y'all's favorite quarterbacks the business. I'm talking about make them look like they're not good quarterbacks at times. Patrick Mahomes did not look good against the Jets. Josh Allen did not look good against the Jets. I mean, there's just a lot of Jalen Hurts did not Patrick Mahomes against the Jets. Or did he play the Jets?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Jalen Hurts did not look good against the Jets. Dak Prescott did. Like I said, it's any given week. You got to come out to play. You got to come out and beat your opponents. I don't care what you say. Right. You can get beat any week by any team, and that just comes to show that. So I don't want to hear that.
I mean, no, you're hitting the nail on the head 100%. And then my thing is that, like, it's easy to say, oh, it's just the Giants. But if you look at the Giants, how many teams have played them like that? How many teams have completely dominated them like that? How many quarterbacks have thrown for 400 yards against them? None. Like that, you can call these teams bad because they lose games, but at the same time, you got to look at how they're losing these games. If you're a good team, quote unquote, and you're in a dogfight with a bad team, that's not more impressive than a good team blowing them completely out. And you can't say that, oh, that's what you're supposed to do when you can't do it. If it's
I
just the
agree.
because when, like you said, when it was the Jets, oh, it's just the Jets and Zach Wilson. I mean, well, they've given literally every other quarterback they've had trouble, and they've been competitive in almost every game they've played in. So I don't understand how that could be a narrative against the Cowboys.
And
You can
could win
say
their division. Could very well win their division.
right. I mean, and then the thing is, it's like when people look at the Cowboys, they get tunnel vision. They don't see the Eagles losing to the Jets. They don't see the Bills losing to the Jets and the Patriots, or they see it and it's just like it's like it doesn't matter. I guess I don't understand because I feel like a lot of people, anytime we have any type of success in during the regular season, people are going to just point to the playoffs, and it's like, well, what's the point of playing the regular season? Or the bad if we point out to them losing the bad team, and it's like that's the thing. The same way we lost to the Cardinals, there are other teams losing to bad teams. Every team this year has a loss, and pretty much every team has a loss to a team they're quote unquote better than. Because the only team with one loss is the Eagles, and they lost to the Jets, who were not that good when we beat them. So I'm the narratives of like I mean, the personalities on TV, they've even started to admit it that they grade the Cowboys harder. Dak gets they're harsher on Dak because he plays for the Cowboys. I mean they're being upfront about it, but that doesn't make it right. So I mean, the only thing our guys can really do is just go out there, play well, perform. Don't give them much to talk about. That's why sometimes the Dak's interceptions, oh, they make it so much worse because it's like anytime he throws a pick, it's gonna be amplified no matter what. So it just sucks anytime he does. Like
His
for
one
his
pick is
picks,
Josh Allen threes. His one pick is
exactly,
Jalen Hurts two. Like, whatever.
exactly. Like those three picks. That's why those three picks against the 49ers were just so sickening because we were already down by so much, and we weren't. The game was already. We had already pretty much lost the game, and those picks came in garbage time. That's the real funny thing I just kind of thought about. People love to kind of disqualify touchdowns or points put up in garbage time, but those picks are he threw them, so they're on the stat sheet and they're gonna be there. But they weren't relevant to the game at all. I mean, he's in terms of relevant picks, he's only thrown like three, but that's why it sucks so much when he does things when Dak does do things like that because it's like, man, the media, the haters, everyone's about to run with this narrative. So like, give them. But that's why, in his defense, he's giving them the absolute least amount that they can talk about this year. So I mean,
I agree.
kudos to him. Kudos to the team. We got, like I said, got the Panthers coming up, and I just want to touch on this one more time. Like I said, I think that this, like you said, this 4 game stretch is important in terms of just the team success, but more importantly for Dak, like I've been saying, I think if he can put up the stats in these games against the weaker opponents and then get some wins against those top teams, no matter what the stat sheet looks like, if he can win those games, then I think his MVP candidacy is up as it's in his own destiny. I think, and I don't think it's that far of a stretch because when you look at those teams, the weaker teams, obviously he's shown he can put up numbers. He's shown he can beat those teams. We're not really worried about them. But then if you look at the better teams that we have to play, I think I like us against the Eagles at home. Like I said, when we played them the first time, they got every single break. The fumbles that they had came right back to them. The game of inches, we came up short on a couple different plays. I don't think that game replicates itself, especially not in Dallas, where we won 12 games in a row. So I think we can beat them. I think if you look at the Bills, we've talked about it plenty of times how big of a turnover machine Josh Allen is, and just the way our team likes to take the ball away from another team. I think that's a match made in heaven for us. If you look at the Dolphins, they're kind of
The
in the
only
same
thing I
boat
say
as
about
us.
the Bills is it's in December. It's at the Bills Stadium, so it could be snowing. That's a toss up for me, only because just like the weather conditions and like we're not used to playing in snow at all. So that's the only reason I'd say something like
Right.
that. But I still like us versus the Bills.
I agree 100%, but I've seen reports that like people like Jake Ferguson are freaking dunking their hands in ice just to numb them up and then trying to catch balls on the jig machine and stuff just to prepare for things like that. So, if things like that are true, if everybody is putting in that type of mentality, putting in that type of work, hopefully the weather won't be too much of a distraction for us. But then if you think I want to move on, like if you look at the Dolphins, that's another tough game we have. They're kind of in the same boat as us. They've pretty much blown out the lower level teams they played, and then struggled against the teams with winning records. So I think our games against teams with winning records, I think we've had one good game and one bad game, and I'm pretty sure they pretty much only had bad games against good teams. So I like us in that one. And then the Lions, I think that'll be if I'm being 100% honest, I think that Lions game will be the toughest, just because of it being in the conference, in the both teams fighting for that. I mean, if things go according to plan, how I think they will, us and the Lions will be fighting for first place in the first round bye in the NFL playoffs. So I think that'll be a very tough game. But I think just the way we've played, the way our defense is, I think that they can kind of stop Jared Goff. And if the way our offense is being ran the past 4 weeks, if we can just continue on this trend, don't really change it much scheme wise, because that was my main problem with the things before. It was just saying like things weren't working. Things are working now. I like the way we're playing, and I have a lot of confidence in this team going forward.
No, I agree. But hey, that's another episode. Keep liking, keep commenting, keep sharing, keep subscribing. We appreciate y'all. Like I said, Commanders after this on Thanksgiving. So we'll get in a recap video and preview video after this. Hopefully, I like us against the Panthers, but that's it. Take us out.
All right, I'm Orlando.
And I'm Omar.
We're the Smart Bros.
This is the Smart Take.